tears in your eyes about to fall. You're wondering if I'm for real. Oh, what if he'll never leave you on your own? Make a sacrifice today and learn to love and pray. Ask him to forgive cause you want to live. It's time to deal with the Lord. Jesus' love is in your heart, every part as you are. He just wants to give, he wants you to live. He'll give you all you want.
This is Matt Fife, R&B guru of R&BHaven.com. With me today is Keith Mitchell, former member of the group After 7. As a member of After 7, Keith Mitchell scored hits with tracks like Ready or Not, Baby I'm For Real, Heat of the Moment, and Till You Do Me Right. Since then, Keith's gone on to do work as a manager and as a gospel singer. Keith, it's great to have you with us.
Hey, how you doing, Matt? Good to be here.
I understand you worked for a few years as a financial planner and investment advisor before joining After 7. So I was curious, with your love for music, what got you into the financial industry?
Well, I guess I'm kind of like a lot of people. I honed my skills in the Pentecostal church as a 7-year-old and sang in the choirs and was actively into music from that side of the business, but not really having just outright defined pursuit of a music career. My dad advocated getting your education, working hard, saving your money. Those were the things that he instilled in us, and it was only after arriving at Indiana University and being exposed to one of the classes, the IU Soul Review, that I found another outlet to explore my talent singing that I had really developed in the church. I really didn't pursue a musical career in high school. It was not a real hip thing to be involved in play and choral ensemble and things like that back when I was in high school. But after I got to college and got exposed down at IU to this program which focused on performance and some of the business aspects of music and a class that you audition for, that's where I really developed the love and the desire to want to be on stage.
You've mentioned this program, the Soul Review. So what kind of work did you partake in that program?
Well, in that program, I was one of 5 male vocalists that were in a stand-up male vocal group. So the IU Soul Review is comprised of 40-something members. There are instrumentalists, 2 rhythm sections that are auditioned and are placed together, and 3 stand-up vocal groups, 1 mixed group with 2 guys, 2 girls, 1 all-female group with 4 girls, and 1 all-male group with 5 guys. And I was a member of the 5-guy male vocal group. I was in the group for a couple of years, and then Kevon came to IU, and he auditioned for the class, and we brought him into the group as well. So that's where he and I garnered a friendship and a love for performance, and we took it home after the summers each year, along with Melvin. We'd be in a lot of gong shows and singing contests around Indianapolis, and we won quite frequently. And it was there that we developed the love for singing together. And over a course of years, with Face's success with the deal and eventually leaving the deal, he pulled our co-string and provided an opportunity for us to do what we had done for him over the years. We demoed a lot of the music that later became hit records for some of his early placements in the music industry. We just go into a hotel room someplace and they tell us what parts to sing, and he would create demos that he was able to submit and got played. So that's where he developed the ear for knowing that we had something that was rather special as a sound. And a lot of executives heard us, but they didn't really think of us as a group. They just knew that there were some guys with Face's brothers that had great voices. And eventually that brought about the opportunity for us to become a group.
So you said you demoed several tracks that went on for other artists. Do you have any examples of that?
I know Shalimar did a record, the Whispers did some records. I can't quite remember all. It helped to open the door and pave the way for Face's music to get out there. And, you demo a record and somebody likes the song and, they put their stamp on it. But just the fact that we had a part in that was what represented our sound in some executives' ears that made us a viable entity.
So I'm kind of curious about it. You mentioned the group's relationship with Babyface, and I understand you're related to L.A. Reid, is that correct?
Well, that wasn't totally true. I mean, back then you try to make an interesting story, but Kevon and Ellen were Face's brothers, but in print it sounded good to keep me the cousin of L.A., but we really weren't kin to each other.
So was there any relation then, or how did that come about?
No, there was no relation with me in L.A. Kevon and I, we were just great friends at college. And once the opportunity came about that Face decided to put Melvin and Kevon together, they needed another member. And out of the history of Kevon and myself at IU, singing together. And then what we did in the summers in between those years at college, let Face knew that I had some talent. Wasn't a bad face to look at. You put the three of us together and you got a little something, you know?
That's good stuff. Because of the group's relationship with Babyface, was there any work getting signed to Virgin Records, or did you have to go through the standard process?
We got signed basically unseen and unheard. They went off of L.A. and Face's reputation. You know, at that time, everything they touched was turning to gold and platinum. So they figured if you got the two brothers of Face, they couldn't be bad.
Now, how did it feel kind of being the odd man out in the group, being the only non-Edmonds brother?
Well, I mean, it had its ups and its downs because, you know, I was kind of like the cream between two chocolate cookies. Like an Oreo cookie, you got it in, but you out, you know what I'm saying? I played my role. I welcomed the opportunity to work with both of them, and they're both great vocalists. I think that we all were hailed as great vocalists because they sent us to Seth Riggs, who at the time was Michael Jackson's vocal coach when we first went to Los Angeles. Virgin Records wanted to find out, do we really have some singers here? So they sent us to Seth Riggs, and he had a vocal session with us. It came back that we all were middle C tenors. So they were satisfied that, yeah, these guys can sing. Part of what made us unique is that we all could sing first tenor, and we all could sing each other's notes. So it provided a very unique blend, but we all had a little different timbre and a little bit different texture to our vocal abilities. But the challenges, I would say, were the fact that I had been a member of the group in college that got to lead song. And then coming into the group, I was not given that opportunity more than once or twice to lead a phrase in a song. But I do know that it did get me out there a little bit because we were on the Arsenio Hall show. Arsenio Hall was one advocate that supported me as a lead vocalist and made mention of it several times that usually the person in the group that doesn't lead songs usually can't sing. But he recognized me several times as being someone who really had a smooth, silky voice. So I appreciated that, acknowledged it, and I was humbled by it. But my role in the group was what it was. I could dance. I felt like I was an entertainer. I could speak well, and I used those talents to represent.
You mentioned not really getting as much lead as you would have liked, and that's something a lot of our visitors noticed. There's the one line you do in Baby I'm For Real where you sound incredible. You know, your voice is really smooth, and we kind of wish we heard more of you. Did you ever discuss the option of getting more lead work?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had those conversations, but I think somewhere in the underlying fabric of After 7, when they decided to put it together, the group was going to be about the two brothers, and possibly that they didn't want to have a third member rise out of the group situation as a result of their opportunity. So I think there probably was some efforts to suppress that aspect of my ability, but like I say, I took it with a grain of salt, did my part, and became a team player. Coach asks you if you've been a shooter in high school and he asks you to be a point guard at the college level, you do what the coach asks. So in this case, I was willing to subside my personal aspirations and development for the sake of the group.
So I guess the problem is the group is almost marketed like Casey and JoJo style, where it's the two brothers, but then it's still on the level of a Jodeci-esque, where you got the other guys in the group. You got you there as well.
Correct. But, you know, I think my part, even though I wasn't heard, you felt my presence on stage. If you had the opportunity to see us on stage, I like to think of myself as being the glue that held the visual side of After 7 together, because I enjoyed entertaining, and entertaining was a natural. That's the way I approached being a member of the group. I was going to make sure that I do the steps, the group do the steps, and we were going to represent the visual part of what After 7 represented in a real professional way.
You kind of talk about that chance to see you guys on stage. I noticed a few years ago on Ticketmaster, tours of After 7 started showing up again and doing shows down south. Was this a full group reunion thing, or has the group toured again since then?
Well, the group right now does do shows, but it's Kevon and two other members that are not original members of the group. So they'll show up and do the songs, but Melvin is touring as well as myself.
Rolling back the clock again towards the albums you guys put out, a lot of your early work was a nice combo of the New Jack Jams, Don't You Think, Sayonara, and then a lot of the sweet-talking ballads. Which style of these tracks did you prefer?
Well, I'm really fond of the ballads, but it always takes a great New Jack kind of a song to push you towards having the ability to have great shows. I mean, we were great balladeers, but we also needed to have songs that get your crowd motivated and get people up out of their seats and dancing. Compared us with like Brian McKnight, who is nothing but a balladeer. When you go to a Brian McKnight show, you might not be quite as excited in what he delivers musically. The girls are wooed by the sex appeal, I guess, of his presentation and him sitting behind the piano, but he can't get you out of the seats because he never really recorded an up-tempo song. So I'd have to say that After Seven's diversity in our first two albums provided us with hit records that made coming to an After Seven concert a complete joy of entertainment. And that's why we were able to tour with Whitney Houston, MC Hammer, The Whispers, Gladys Knight, Patti LaBelle, Frankie Beverly. To be able to go from a total kid market show, which is what MC Hammer represented, to turn around and get on a Whitney Houston show, which is a totally different audience, a pop audience, play places like Maine, New Hampshire, tour across Canada. Well, traditional R&B music isn't always accepted in a pop arena. So for us to be able to span from an MC Hammer tour to Whitney Houston tour and then go back to the Whispers tour or Gladys Knight tour, those are all different markets. But we were touring all those different live shows with the same music. So we came around at a really unique time in music, having hip-hop and then having the ballads. We were young men, and people perceived us probably younger than we were, but we were a little older at the time when we first came out. So we were mature, but yet we looked very young. So we fit into both audiences, which is really unique to be able to play in front of those different audiences.
One thing you mentioned was that with the group's first two albums, they were both really diverse, but I've noticed the third album, Reflections, moved away from the up-tempo jams and was almost all ballads. What brought this change about?
Well, Babyface and L.A. did all the first album. The second album, they really didn't do anything. Dallas Austin spearheaded the beginning of that project, and Dallas was from the hip-hop era, one of the pioneers of it from the R&B hip-hop standpoint. So his take on music was a lot different than Bass, but they all felt like they had a kind of temperament for what After Seven should be and where we should go. I think in the third album, you saw more of Kevon and Melvin's personal touches than you did having Bass leadership or having Dallas Austin's leadership, because at that point, Bass was very little involved in the A&R in the project. So what you really found was Kevon and Melvin both being a little bit more involved with selecting songs, and they gravitated toward their love, which is singing love songs.
Another thing you mentioned earlier was going on all these tours. You're with a lot of these big name acts. What was it like being on tour with Whitney Houston, MC Hammer?
It was a lot of fun. Hammer totally was a different experience than Whitney, but they both were at the height of their careers musically, stage-wise, had great flashy shows. What Hammer did, I loved the fact that he brought dance and showmanship and entertainment to the rap industry. It's just sad to see that nobody followed that mold in the industry. Just went to the point where they would just show up, play the music, and stand up there and rap. It's not really entertaining, but I guess the sophistication of ticket buyers changed over the years, and so they really care about it being entertaining just when they get a record to see the star. But what Whitney would bring and what Hammer would bring and what the old school representation of entertainment was, we were branded by that flavor of entertainment, and we strive to provide a visual to go along with the melodicness of the music.
Looking back at the albums, Reflections, when it came out, it did pretty well on the charts, but after that, the group wasn't really heard from again. You guys broke up. Can you go into the details about what happened there, or what led to the group splitting?
Well, when we left Virgin Records, we left feeling like Virgin Records had never really put themselves in a position as a record label to win on the R&B side. From their staffing internally to the artists that they had signed to the label that end up supporting each other when records are released through promotional servo. So it got frustrating putting your body, heart, and soul into a project and your record label drops the ball on records. So we lost confidence in the label and asked to be released. We didn't lose our record deal, but all the public, they should know that, because it's a pretty unique situation. Not many artists choose to walk away from labels, but at the time we did, not knowing what the future would hold. We just knew we didn't want to be there, and we walked away from it, and I think that led to the open space in our togetherness, and it gave Kevon an opportunity to work on this solo project, which he did with RCA, and I had entrepreneurial endeavors. I had a barbecue restaurant in Atlanta and wanted to pursue putting time and effort into that endeavor. We all had some individual aspirations, and we embarked upon those things. That's basically what led to us doing different things. And we got back together maybe 6 years later and did some live shows together, but no real pursuit of a record deal at that point because the industry had changed so much and so much space and time. We just did a lot of live shows for a couple